human intellect. The NCOM 511, center of the most calculating intelligence on Earth, programmed by Master Control to survive by all means. Soon, the ultimate tool will become the ultimate enemy.
I still do not understand why you want to break into the system.
Because, man, somewhere in one of these memories is the evidence. Hey, it's the big Master Control program everybody's been talking about.
Kevin Flynn, computer genius. Taken prisoner and held captive within the digital world of the computer itself. Trapped inside an electronic arena where love and escape do not compute. Tron. Enter its world this summer.
Well, howdy folks. Continuing on with the 35th anniversary celebration of the summer of 1982. Continuing on with Tron, the original. Yeah, starring Jeff Bridges, Bruce Boxleitner, Cindy Morgan, and trying to think, is it David Warner? Yeah, David Warner from Titanic. But this predates Titanic quite a bit. This is a movie I could never well, I guess I can understand why it has gathered such a following, because this movie was not really a huge success back in 1982 because of E.T. This was the one. This was another one that's went under the fault of E.T. overshadowed, and I gotta say, I guess I just don't connect with this movie as much. I understand that the retro feelings that people have about it, that's cutting edge. It was something that nobody had ever seen before. But I have to disagree with what the filmmakers say. They don't think it was too far ahead of its time. I do. I don't think people were necessarily ready for something like this. I think if they had waited just a few more years, maybe made this movie around 1985, it would have probably done a little bit better. But but it still has gathered a following throughout the years of just fans and people that really enjoy the movie. I don't think the movie's a bad movie. I think it's a good, decent enough movie. I don't get it. It's just one that doesn't really click with me as one of my favorites. That does not mean it's a bad movie. it's just not one of my favorites. If you know what I mean. It's I'm not bashing anybody that likes it or was a big fan of the movie, because it's kind of earned that status of people dressing up in costumes. It is within that lore of Star Wars, Star Trek, Lord of the Rings type of a movie where people show up to the screenings dressed up and they know the lines from the movie and things like that. I will say this. I had something on my shoulder. I will say this. The sequel, Tron Legacy, I like the fact that it was a continuation. But that's Tron Legacy. I do have some issues with that. But this movie, Tron, I really enjoy just the idea. I think still to this day, the ability of what would happen if if a human being went inside the digital universe. I think that's still an intriguing idea. It's been copied. You have to say with like the Matrix films, it's been copied, and that's essentially something that's a different take on the idea. But it's living in a digital world. This movie, was before that, and I think I think the acting is fairly well done in it. Bruce Boxleitner and Jeff Bridges. And Jeff Bridges was a fairly well-known actor at the time, and Disney was really, they were really kind of surprised that Jeff Bridges would take something like this. But he understood it, and if you watch him, he plays the part of Clue as well as he does in Tron Legacy, but that's a different Clue. This is the original Clue. The way he plays Clue in this movie at the beginning kind of foreshadows what Jeff Bridges was going to do in Starman. So, yeah, very monotone. Do you think we can merge with this memory bit? That type of voice. And so it's still, I don't think it, and plus, here's the other thing, I don't think it holds up very well. Just by looking at this movie. This is a movie that has dated very, very unfortunately. Now, the positive side to that is that they were able to pull a sequel out of that and bring it up to date with current CGI technology, and while keeping the same ideas about the grid and things like that. It's, like I said, it's still an intriguing idea, the ability of a human being entering into the digital world. It's, yeah, I think, it at the time it was too far ahead of its time, but and unfortunately it's the one I think it dates the most, because of the effects. It was CGI. It was 100% CGI, and the reason, and they were hoping to win the Academy Award for Best Visual Effects. They didn't get it because at the time, get this, CGI was not considered visual effects. It was not considered visual effects. But it's funny that, when Jurassic Park comes out, Terminator 2, those movies have CGI in it. They win the Academy Award for Best Visual Effects, and they have CGI in them. But it's kind of funny. But I think if it wasn't for Tron, those movies would not exist. Because this did put the staple in, here's this new way of doing effects, but even though it was very, very crude, it could only form, the CGI in the film can only form spheres, cylinders, and squares and triangles and things like that. They could build shapes out of those, but it was very square, very spherical, or very cylinder-like. But other than that, I think it still is a good movie. It's not one of my particular favorites, and it may be yours. Who knows? But yeah, Tron, the original. Now, I think we got one more. Yeah, we got one more that I'm going to review. I think we got Blade Runner tomorrow, so we'll check out Blade Runner. I don't know which version I want to watch, if it's the final cut or the original theatrical cut. Probably leaning more towards the original theatrical cut, because that's what we're celebrating here, is the original releases of these movies. Like for E.T., I did not watch the 20th anniversary edition. I watched the original 1982 cut. So, yeah. So from me to you, see you later.